Welcome back to the caster desk. Feels like it's been forever, but we're back here and we're ready to go. Thank you all for the analyst desk and all the beautiful big brain points we have, talking a little bit about this series and what we saw from Coog Esports in game number 1 that started off so promising, that looked so good. They were fighting back. They were taking it to Maryville, and then Maryville closed the door on them about 20 or so minutes in after it started transitioning over to their lead. So we'll see if Coog Esports can do something here in this game number 2. Again, same story as ever. Backs against the wall. Coog Esports, if they do not win here, they are out of the League of Legends College Championship. So this is where you need to put up or shut up. Again, Rumble is banned away. Got to. 100%. Anivia banned away by Maryville to take that away from Saxo, obviously. And Senna as well going to be banned. So no Evan RL Senna. They're going to have to give Maryville something a little bit more hyper carry focus maybe this time around.
That was the fastest Anivia ban I've ever seen. I literally saw Rumble get clicked, and then the second it got clicked, Anivia was already locked in just to make sure they couldn't have that one. And now Morgana taken off the board as well. I am curious really heavily. There was something that I did spot on Coog Esports considering, which is Saxo's played a good amount of Diana, which is really good at translating, fits into that kind of LeBlanc mold, a little bit different than like LeBlanc, and has a lot of kill pressure in the main lane, but also flexes really well into the jungle if Teeny plays it at all. So there's all of a sudden, like, this becomes a really valuable pick, as well as a takeaway from Odd Orange that this team could go to in the right circumstances, and especially with this setup right now. No, Thresh Varus, there's no Senna Tom Kench to come through. Now Tristana's the last one left with, like, Rel, but Alistar exists in the meta. This is the point where, like, this could be something you bring out if you want that aggression and a lot of flexibility in your draft.
Coog definitely taking some time with this first pick. Want to make sure it's a good one. And make sure they can set themselves up correctly in this one. I still think that you need to focus on that early game tempo control, that early game pressure control that we saw them do so well with in that game number 1, but you've also got to find ways to transition that into the mid game, into the late game where those team fights really matter, where Maryville's mechanics come online. They choose the Udyr. So, saw a very good performance from Odd Orange on it last game. See what Teeny can do on it. Not going to be the same tool as a Skarner, kind of the same concept though. You're just running at people trying to stun it.
That's exactly. It's also a takeaway from Odd Orange, who now gets to respond with Volibear, which is banned away in the previous series. I'm also curious if Tom Kench pops up, because obviously Shady played that in the previous game, fits well with Jinx as well. I know I don't really like it either, and it's not my perfect champion for Shady. I want to
see the beast of Shady. I want to see him unchained. I want to see him killing people.
Yeah, I want to see him on Brand too. Okay, I remember back in the Phoenix 1 days when he played Brand and Nami and all these things, and I loved it back then. But we're not going to get that. This is the tried and true regular.
This is another pick that's highlighted that didn't get banned away. The Nocturne took its place, and Lee Sint coming in for Coog, looking for some outplays, looking for mechanical skill. They've got the tools available to them to do so.
Yep. Lucky Bao has played this quite a bit. I don't think it's much a Saxo champion. I think this is almost certainly going top lane. And also, it's not really hidden because there's like an Udyr immediately. So you know that it's going to go into the lane. So unless Saxo has been practicing it and putting a bunch of work into this without me being able to find out, which rarely happens because I am an investigative descriptor of everything League of Legends, especially in Collegiate, it's probably going to Lucky Bao in the top lane. It also is a really good pick into the likes of the Volibear, which you have to remember, because Volibear jumps in, gets a bunch of health, you get kicked back out, all of a sudden you're in the middle of your own team. Same with Gnar, where Mini Gnar gets punished really heavily by Lee Sin in the laning phase, and Mega Gnar, when you jump in to try to ult everybody into the wall, you just get yeeted right back up by the kick. There's plenty to talk about here for Coog. They don't care. No.
Nope. Chippy's is like, nah, I'm good, bro. I've been in the gym.
He has been in the gym. We got to see that during the mid game. It's true. The Lee Sin, I think, is fantastic here from Coog Esports, though. In Maryville, they're not necessarily playing to it. Obviously, they have a very definitive style. They're really good at team fighting so far with their setup, and a lot of aggression to come out of Odd Orange with both CC and tower dive potential. I also like that Coog Esports, they noticed that the Volibear is thrown in, so they get rid of these cross-map plays with Twisted Fate. Gallia would be the other one if you really want to get rid of that one, and it's another lane kind of stalling pick that Wolfie does go to from time to time, knowing that that's going to be the case. I like that Maryville's adapting. They say, okay, no LeBlanc for you, not going to come out. I think Victor's another great one right here, just because it takes off another blind pick mid laner to get rid of.
Nope, the Diana. So we passed over this, and we're going to get to the bans, right? We've already seen the LeBlanc, the Diana. We have the TF ban away. The Caitlyn got locked in for Coog Esports, and I've had a love and hate relationship with Caitlyn, mostly in my solo queue, because I hate playing against her. But the fact of the matter is, she has not been that heavy, at least heavily present in the meta recently, but she will be making presence here in the College League of Legends Championship for Coog Esports. And they're still waiting on the support as well to pair with it. I think this can be a really strong lane. You're looking to press those towers. You're looking to try to get those plates as quickly as possible. But you're going against the Jinx. And I do feel like that Jinx matchup into Caitlyn can be very volatile. It can go either way. But you have that true hyperscaling ADC on the other side with the Jinx. Although Caitlyn can get to scary moments in the later games. Those crits are hitting for numbers. But it is going to be paired with the Bard. And that's what we're looking at.
I'm all about that right now. That would be a pick right here. If they decide on Kassadin, they've picked like 3 of my favorite champions, which is incredible to think about. First is Bard, Kassadin's number 2. Victor would make me right, so there is that to consider also.
That's the one we want. We want to make sure that Rebel is right.
I don't care if I'm right. I want Kassadin. Kassadin's way cooler. But of course, they're gonna go with the standard.
Wait, hold on.
Victor's
Can somebody
not
clip that for me? That he said he doesn't care if he's right.
Don't say that.
Just make sure to get that on there, please.
Yes.
Somebody's watching this. Anyways, back to your big brain analysis.
Okay. First off, we're looking at what's currently the hover. Shady he's been an aggressive player in the past, and obviously does this with a bunch of melee champions. We've seen it with like Set and such. This is a perfect aggressive champion when you think about Lulu. We went through this in the top lane matchup where yesterday we had like the Darkened Blade and all these other, and then you got Glitter Lance and picks that are coming to the top lane. Lulu. Now it's in the bottom lane where he gets to play super hard aggression into Contrim, Nom, and Noodles in that bottom side. Seems like a bit of a range advantage that the Caitlyn and Bard have. The biggest thing to me, not a ton of just pure aggression can come out of Evan RL and Shady, which allows for a lot of roam potential from Contra and Nom. Maybe that's the idea here, is instead of using Saxo to roam around a lot, which isn't necessarily where we've seen the comfort be for Coog Esports, they're instead going to use Contrim on this Bard to try to mitigate everywhere, or maybe even play into bottom side and use this Caitlyn in a very efficient way to take towers. We've seen that time and time again in Collegiate.
Now, I will say, it makes me sad we're not going to see that super playmaking ability coming out from Shady, one of those playmakers for Maryville. But the thing I'm starting to think of is, like, you bait them into letting Contrim Nom go out, do some roaming, get some trinkets, get whatever Bard wants to do. But then you stay in the lane, and as this Jinx and Lulu, if you get one Glitter Lance on Noodles, if you get one of these slows, the chase down is going to be really hard. So I wonder if that's what they're kind of indexing in. They want the lane to get separated. They want to leave Shady and Evan RL down there to make sure that they can try to get a lead for themselves. Because when you look at the composition for Maryville, it does seem like they're going to go towards this topside matchup. They are going to go towards this mid lane matchup potentially with Auto Orange and see if they can get avenues early on in that fashion.
I think the mid lane matchup ends up a lot more quiet than we saw in the previous game. So now it's, I think lane advantage purely goes to the side of Caitlyn and Bard. Again, that range advantage is difficult to deal with. But the good thing is Maryville now has a really active jungler to work with in Auto Orange, going top lane, going bot lane, and attempting to play into those, because if you get on top of Bard and Caitlyn, it's difficult for them to try to get away outside of like a really great Bard Q or something. Disabling the tower is also nice. The siege is difficult to get through from Caitlyn, but taking the tower away is a really nice way to try to put some aggression in, and allowing Jinx to get ahead of Caitlyn. You have the range to match with those long range rockets, and it does AoE damage, so just better at team fighting for the most part in the earlier stages of the game. Means if you've got like bot lane push, you can walk into Dragon Pit without a ton of fear, because Jinx is going to be more valuable than a Caitlyn to begin things, only because of the AoE on those rockets. The crit headshots are really tough to deal with inside of like skirmishes and dueling and things of that sort. So I think Maryville's playing to that aspect, is grouping around this bottom lane a bit more, and then this top lane you can gank as well, because you've got, of course, the Lee Sin. I think you're going to need to put some resource into that top lane, because again, I'm not in love with the idea of Gnar specifically into the Lee Sin laning phase.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting, right? I want to circle back before we go back to the top lane. To Wolfie on the Syndra here is going to be feeling really confident at that first game. Showed some great mechanics in that first game. So that's going to continue here. Victor matchup can be a little bit different in that aspect of it, and especially like how that give and take goes in the mid lane. But it's the top lane that we've got to focus on. Chippy's had a great performance on Gnar last game. A lot of comfort from that game 1 coming through here into game 2 for Maryville. But on the other side, it's all eyes on Lucky Bao. Like, I'm looking at it right now. Like, all eyes on you. Because the fact is, you've got this Lee Sin, you got this pick that's been rising priority, this pick that's so strong in itself, and you need to get those resources, as you were alluding to that spot. And that's going to be on Teeny to try to get that top lane focus going. But it's going to be in the face of another bear, Auto Orange, trying to make that happen as well. So I'm really interested at how that 2v2 goes between the top junglers and where that focus really lies for either side.
I actually feel we could even take this further out. If you look at Coog Esports as a whole, pretty much every one of their lanes feels pretty good to play early on. Where like Victor should be fine in wave clear. Once the E advantage is up, wave clear is going to start to head back into his favor. You can opt into like penetration pretty quickly, or even magic resist. It's not that big a deal to go Merc Treads into Syndra, and all of a sudden she does no damage, which is what happens. Lee Sin's good into Mininar and really good in skirmishing and fighting with that kick, like we said, into Volibear and Meganar as options, especially if Jinx is sitting behind them. And then like their bottom lane with the range advantage makes it really difficult for the Jinx and the Lulu to sit there, even with the aggression of the two that you have on that bottom side. So it feels like a lot of what Maryville has indexed into for specifically this game is Odd Orange's ability to affect the map heavily. And if they do end up getting like this big early game like we saw last time where they had like Rift Heralds and stuff, that's where Contram's roaming actually comes in. All of a sudden you have a Bard who can join mid lane fights, join top lane fights. If that ultimate's used properly, you can use it to really completely mitigate Rift Heralds. And all of a sudden this like snowballing effect that happens slowly for Maryville, where they take objectives and they take like 1-2 picks here or there, they take little skirmish wins, it starts to flood back into the favor of Coog, where the gold advantage is about even coming into the mid game fights. And if you win a 5-on-5 there, all of a sudden Coog looks a lot better.
Well, and that's where I need to bring back some memories of that first game. We say things are going to be a little different. You know, you have some more pieces to deal with, or at least in the early game, when you're going at least on the side of Maryville. But for Coog, it's all about getting that early advantage, getting that early objective control. We saw them get last game. Then they gave up dragons after that. But if you can get that, and then, as we said, the most important word is transition the early lead into that mid game, and really still get all the pieces firing on the same, same wavelength, being able to get everybody involved. And with the composition you have, right, you have a lot of push and pull, you have a lot of peel available to you as well, and you've got a lot of strength in the ranged fights, I feel like, when you're bringing up that bot lane. But it's all how it comes together in the execution as a whole for the squad.
This is a composition that I feel like for Coog, you can either go very hard attempting to aggress in your lanes very heavily, and if Udyr is able to access, all of a sudden that becomes a lot easier. The other way is if you slow down this game, you can take team fighting a little bit later. I still do think Jinx is better than Caitlyn in the team fighting aspect, and Victor is responsive probably a little better than the Syndra, so that's about even in that regard. Lee Sin is a really good tool to mitigate some of the frontline engage of the Volibear and the Gnar, but they don't have a lot of frontline beyond that, which is the one struggle that they will have. So it's going to require them to have some gold in these carries to be able to work front to back. But there's a lot of kind of individual play and mechanics and stuff that can shine through for Coog Esports, which is why I like this composition. Maryville's gone back to tried and true. They're running like Syndra, they're running Gnar again. They got Volibear as the response to the Udyr instead of running the Udyr this time, and their bottom lane is something that's able to carry. They put a lot of faith into Evan RL. He's been amazing for them over the course of the entire split. They're not afraid to put the game in the hands of that bottom lane if the team fighting phase comes about, and they're willing to take this one to another 35-minute victory where they just get 200 gold a minute, and eventually they're just nothing that the enemy team can do. That's 100% comfortable for the side of Maryville.
And that's where I do feel like we have slight differences in the way, that we played game number one going into this game number two, but especially for Coog versus Maryville in this one. Like, you have this strength just as a whole for Maryville in those team fights. I think they've always excelled at. Their composition itself is really good at those things, especially around the objectives. The other side, very high ceiling of execution. They've got to find, they got to be crossing their T's, dotting their I's the whole way down. They can't stop. They can't, as you say, just let Maryville play the game. You need to take it to them. But it's a double-edged sword. You have all those pieces. You have that high ceiling, but the mechanics have to be there. The execution that we talked about the whole time has to be there. And as a whole, like, you don't have necessarily, besides the bot lane maybe, something to rest on, something to wait on, something that's going to be, there present in the later parts of the game. You have to find those advantages early.
You do have Victor, so you can't wait on that. Also, mid lane mid lane's also decently a snore fest sometimes, especially with like Victor Syndra, because like you shouldn't be solo killing each other, even if it happens. Like you probably shouldn't be.
Thank you for saying that, Rebel, because then you're going to be wrong and it's going to be great.
Of course I am, because again, Wolfie is one of the very few people who's allowed to play Syndra for a lot of reasons. You saw them a number of times last game, being able to predict like the LeBlanc jumps and things of that sort. But this game, I like the fact, I'm going to say this for Coog Esports, I would rather a team bet on themselves being able to win a game like this than like drafting something slow and attempting to just like like slow, like entropy death. They're just like slowly everything scatters across. They just lose like 100 gold or like 10 gold a minute. And in a 45-minute game, they've never taken a tower, never gotten a kill. They're down 40 CS in every lane and they have no objectives. And it's like, oh, we took them 40 minutes. It's like, it doesn't matter. I would rather you lose a 20-minute game that you're trying to make things happen with aggressive picks and comfort stuff than just like dying slowly on the inside to Maryville's composition. Not only for my sanity of not wanting to cast a 40-minute snooze fest, but also because I'd rather you see you bet on yourselves. And that's what they've done at least a little bit in this game.
That's what I was going to say is like we were talking, the analyst that was talking about, we were talking about it needs to see some spice, needs to see some craziness. They came out with that game one draft. We're like, okay, this is the spice that we want. This is the spice of life. Didn't work out for them. They didn't have a life after that first game. But second game, they come back. Same strategy. Go with something crazy. Go with stuff that's open. Lee Sin, not banned away. They pick it up immediately. And they know where the meta is. They know where the strengths lie. And it all just comes down to Summoner's Rift itself. I do get word that we have a little pause from the players. So that's what we're waiting on. We're going to be getting in the game here shortly. But thoughts from you, Rebel? Where does that early game focus come from? What lane specifically are we going to see Coog trying to fight for, or is it going to be a little bit on the table?
I think Lee Sin is a wonderful lane to play too. Mobility, when you go Emax, you do a ridiculous amount of damage. Mininar doesn't have a bunch of mitigation techniques in the earlier stages. A Q means that he can't bounce away super easily, which is really nice. Lee Sin can get solo kills in that lane, and any meager amount of pressure put on by Udyr, even just a flash being burnt, immediately means that Chippies has far less pressure in that top matchup than anything that would be necessary to get, obviously the Lee Sin going. I think even pressure in the bottom lane, you have a lot of CC and a lot of ability to combine those two tools in the Caitlyn and in the Bard to, you just put a bunch of damage onto somebody. One Q that stuns is immediately a trap. That's going to be a trap and a net, a full combo from Caitlyn, and as well as a Meep auto, which is enough to kill just about anybody at any point in the game, which is something to pay attention to as well. So the kill threat's there. I think the only place they don't have to put pressure is mid lane, where Victor is going to just be that scaling factor, go alongside Wolfie, and eventually they're going to hope that Victor as a champion is better than Syndra, which is 100% the case.
Indeed it is. As you see, we are on to the Rift. The water flows over the battlefield. Here we have the Titans, Maryville University, taking on Coog Esports. Coog Esports have to win here, or their League of Legends College Championship run ends now. Maryville up as the top dogs, as this returning champion for a couple years. They want to make their mark known. They've done so in game number 1, but here is where they shine.
Maryville are favorites for a reason. We saw that in the last series. We saw that in the first series. They've got their weaknesses, but they very seldom allow the other team to sit there and to wait and to take advantages and just do nothing with them, right? There's a lot of teams that would go down 3,000 gold and be 3,000 gold down, 10, 15 minutes into the game, and it's unless they get a good fight in their favor or they've gotten a bunch of picks that something happens. And for Maryville, they play the map properly. This is a lot of this is on their players. A lot more of it is on the system, and it's a lot on Zoo, who's been a coach who knows how to win championships and everything. And now, immediately, this is pressure put into the Tribe Rush. They split Bard off, which means Teeny is not going to get a leash, which is harmful. They're sitting in this Tribe Rush. There's no warrant. They have locked Noodles out of this. They will sit here. They will 100%
literally.
sit here. They do not care in the slightest. They'll take their health advantage where they need it right there, and they do get a positive trade.
I was going to spend this whole early game talking about, Noodles picking the pink chroma of the regular Caitlyn skin. It's Mother's Day. It feels really nice. Going to give a good shout out. Noodles, my favorite player. But, Evan RL and Shady don't want none of it. They are here to play. They're here to smash this bot lane as a Jinx and Lulu combo. And they started off really strong. It's not going to gain anything, right, besides a health advantage, which has gone nothing. But it's still that mental advantage early on by Maryville.
Yes, it is. Also, again, Shady's got one of the best level 2s in the game when it comes to just pure damage output, and so Noodles has to be careful. The E and the Q coming out from the Lulu is more than enough damage to be able to put on, especially if you get some additional Jink Rockets in there. And you see that where Contrim Nom, he gets the W at level 2 because you get that quick layer level 2 from those chimes that are on the ground all over the place. One of my favorite champions, so I get to call that all the time. I love it. But thankfully, those little hot cocoa mugs are thankfully going to be there to be able to heal up some of that damage that was put on by the combination of the Lulu and the Jinx in that early game, so not going to mean as much as long as the mana pool doesn't start to become a problem for Contrim Non.
as the biggest question here, and one of the biggest strengths for Bard is making sure you do have that mana up. You can be able to help Noodles, at least in these engages. Noodles taking a lot of damage from the poke from Evan RL, though, early on. And TP is already coming in. That's a very far TP. He does have Auto Orange like right nearby, but going to take a really nice help trade on the way back. That Scout of the Week times it out just beautifully.
Really,
the gravitational field as well.
That was an incredible 3-wave right there that came out from Wolfie, who just needs the immediate tier. The problem is if Teeny can find this gank, that's going to be a problem, as Soxo would be able to snag a kill.
Here.
That they are.
Run right into 2v2. Teeny automatically turns around, but gets flashed on by Auto Orange. Now you have TPs coming in for the top laners, respectively. Lucky Bao will arrive first, but it will lead out to nothing. Oh, man. Coog even committing the 2 bot laners up here, trying to make it happen. Contra Non finds Shady. Go for some supportal combat. Might get chased down by Auto Orange here. Contra Non needs to be really careful.
He's in a portal.
He has it. He has to flash over the wall because he just used it on the transition into the mid lane with Noodles.
Can you flick to Bard really quick just as he's level 3? I want to see, because he almost certainly didn't. You usually go 2 levels Q or 2 levels W even in this laning phase.
He had the portal.
He had the portal. Okay, he used it. Okay,
yeah, he used it on the backside of the dragon to get Noodles back up there. So it was still on cooldown.
Gotcha. Okay, now I see everything that happened right there. And all things said and done, really the only thing that was acquired by either team, like TPs exchanged, like flashes exchanged, things of that sort. Teeny has Ghost, that was exchanged for Auto Orange Flash. The big thing also TPs from both top laners, and the TP advantage that was gained in, or like tried to be used by Wolfie in the mid lane, ended up not accomplishing much, as it's actually like a 3 CS lead instead of anything else that would come through. Wolfie does get an additional back, and you end up finding a Dark Seal compared to like what is effectively a Doran's Ring as your one benefit. It's also Corrupting Potion to refillable pot, which is like mana sustain that Wolfie's going to have. But like the damage that could have done in the right circumstances to keep Soxo locked there might have confirmed Maryville. So I actually really love that, Coog just throws everything at the wall to try to make it stick, because it does unlock this victor from what would have been the oppression of like a Corrupting Pot tier Syndra at the beginning of the game, just never letting you back under tower, not even for a single instant.
I'm really interested at the push and pull of the top lane, though. We had a huge like double wave crashes on both sides of the table. I think it's really interesting how that's been going with no real jungle influence, right? We've seen most of it go to this mid lane with the fight. Shady will find Contrim Non.
There's a bear here.
There is Auto Orange here, but there's a bear on the other side too, Rebel. Teeny's right around the corner. We got bear v bear action. Cubby's going to be feeling really good with his family on the board. Chippy's there, though, maybe going to take a lot of damage. Oh, almost gets a flash kill. That's first blood for Lucky Pow. Bot lane, though, the fight's going to continue as we're going to go across the map, around the world for Auto Orange to get the kill. And that's going to be a traded back 1-for-1. Both teams striking early. Soxo does get the power unleashing.
Nice.
Not going to go down. Burns the Chaos Storm just to get the wave clear here.
Actually, really impressive use, because the traded kill, actually, Teeny runs back into the bear.
He's a big bear. It's little bear versus big bear. I don't know. Teeny's fine.
We're all good. Yeah, everything else kind of came together. I loved the trade of mid lane ultimates to be able to actually use to clear that wave, so that Wolfie's stuck here a little longer, allows Soxo to move. The thing was, the kill on top lane was good. This is the play on bottom side. Shady walks into lack of vision. He knows he's got damage. He puts a lot of pressure into like the Bard, who has to portal through. I'd be curious to see what happened on that bot side. Chippy's just gets jumped on with this ward. The flash was used eventually underneath of the tower, but again, Lee Sin can always follow with Q. I don't even know that flash was used during the course of... Oh, it was right there. Yeah, tried to split at the very last second, but doesn't actually make it work. What is Bard doing hovering in the river? I don't get what that was, because the portal wasn't up yet. Auto Orange was able to sneak in because of that control ward. That was the play in the mid lane. Great gravity well to make sure Wolfie can't follow anything else, as the Cinder ultimate, not enough damage, trades his own to clear that wave and get a back off. All it nets is that dragon for Maryville in the bot side. At minimum, though, Coog Esports is being has some competition here in this early game.
I gotta just shout out our replay observer there, just getting all of the action early on. And they've just been smurfing so hard. Real quick shout out to the production crew, making it so good. But yeah, it's just action early on across the board. Still just a 1 kill apiece though, so nothing too crazy in that aspect of it. But it is, CS leads being developed again by Maryville in this game number 2.
It is. You see an engagement by Chippies into Lucky Bao. I think he's waiting right now.
Kicked him into the Bard. Into it. Now
Great
he's
stun.
Mininar, going to be stunned up, taken down. That's 2 kills for Lucky Bao. This Lee Sin pick really coming up clutch.
That's what I'm saying. Single target damage against the Mininar, even into the Meganar, you saw right there, the kick was enough to put him into a position where Bard was able to contra him Nom, roaming out of lane. Exactly what we wanted to see. Caitlyn safe enough on bottom side. Now we keep our eyes on where Shady's at. Shady's trying to move up towards mid lane, but contra him Nom's here to help out Soxo. And now it's just Rift Herald take. That's going to come through pretty much for free. Nar's going to have to walk back
from
top.
Shady.
Oh, yeah, Shady's really deep. But
I
tries
just
to go
saw
in,
in the
but-
corner of the screen. He was like trying for the deep flank. Not going to be that tool though. Not on the set. Not on any like real lockdown potentials on the Lulu. But yeah, Soxo
Great
does
Guardian.
burn the Chaos Storm back.
Wow.
Yeah, Guardian from Contra Nom. But Odd Orange is here. Can't pick a target. Does go to Contra Mon. That's the power unleashed, but Wolfie dies because of it. Soxo gonna get Stormbringered on top of him. One more chomp will do it. The damage from Shady isn't gonna be enough. Flash forward, Odd Orange gets the kill. Soxo goes down, but can Teeny get the kill back? There's gonna be the call down. A lot of shielding coming out. Teeny has to run away. Lucky Bao is here. 2 kills, phase completed. See if he goes for the kill. Odd Orange has no mana, just goes for the stun.
Oh, the
barely
kill!
misses the Sonic Wave. The gingerbread cookie comes out from Odd Orange, and the flex is there for Maryville.
Tisk, yeah, no kick right there, and I think that would have been 100% been to the death of not only Odd Orange, but also Shady. And a nice play from Maryville, where they're able to cover their mid laner, find a couple of kills in exchange for just the one. There's a Contrim Nom, he barfs through. Nice stun from Shady. This Guardian proc I thought was going to be the death of Wolfie. It forces the flash out, which is huge, but the Volley Bear comes around on the flank, and at this point, there's no portal, there's no flash, there's nothing to be done, and it's just the ultimate to come through from Wolfie. Does trade lives right there, as the minions, I think, took up the last phase as Soxo comes in, but the ultimate burnt here from Odd Orange is able to get on top of Soxo with that additional range on those auto attacks. And from here, Teeny tries, gets a stun under the tower, looked a little bit promising. That E comes through from Volley Bear. This is where Lucky Bao, like if you find the right angle and you find the right Q, 100% can find this kill right here. He's really patient most of the time. No kick though, right there was the angle for the kick, and missing that Q means that there's no more aggression to be had. Just a 2-for-1 for Maryville.
2-for-1 in favor of the team. Oh, Contra Non on the back of the replay is in some trouble here. Noodles as well pushed off of their tier 1 tower. All the plates going over to Evan RL. That's going to be a really nice lead develop for this bot lane of Maryville. And Odd Orange just sticking around, making sure that this is where they are putting their resources.
Yes, Odd Orange, of course, picking up 2 kills in the earlier stages is huge because he's, again, the one to kind of decisive decision maker across the map that can do some really good things for this team. And that's what you're seeing right now is this oppression towards the bottom lane, making sure that this Jinx and this Lulu get unlocked and start attacking the rest of the map instead of leaning into top side, trying to get Gnar a little bit of gold or playing up against the Lee Sin or anywhere else. They break out Jinx, break out Lulu. All of a sudden, bottom river becomes accessible because that tower is gone. And now the rest of the map can start to get attack. That whole tower also has now led to a 2,500 gold lead here for Maryville at 10 minutes into the game. Was really close, but all of a sudden now your Jinx is doing well, your Volley Bear is an amazing front line, and the best you've got here for the side of the Coog Esports roster is this Lee Sin, who's up 2 kills right now.
Yeah, you've got about 1,200 gold already in the lead of Evan RL over Noodles, and this is something we saw in game number 1 where Cougar fighting, Cougar coming at him. They're bringing the early game. But it doesn't matter because Maryville are slowly developing the lead. They're building up over time, and they're playing exactly to their strengths. And now Evan RL is the one that's getting the tools, and they're finding ways to get him ahead here on the bot side of the map, while the entire focus has been towards chippies for Coog.
I like this. Yeah, what is playing competitive taught you about League Legends that you've played elsewhere? We've seen this question a couple times. This is from Youth Coach at Maryville. He says, determination and grit, developing a tough skin. You know, the fair share of criticisms that have come through from this team as actually we're getting a play onto the bottom side. Odd Orange forced to ult there. Oh, Wolfie got caught with that.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Oh, the double stun. Odd Orange has doomed his mid laner, and he goes down. Soxo's going to go down to the Mega Death Rocket, and they are pouncing like tigers right now. Contrim Non does get the stun there on Evan RL, but goes down immediately afterwards. Shady looking for the kill on the Teeny, but the Blast Cone gets him out. Lucky Bao just has to watch as everything goes down. Doesn't want to get involved just yet, but will get involved with this dragon as Coog take their first objective here, unless Odd Orange has something to say about it. Flying in, the Sky Splitter. Oh, it was so close, but not going to get it. Teeny getting chased down here is pretty fast. Gets slowed down by the zap. See if Chippies can chase it down. Barely misses the boomerang.
Okay, not able to quite get that. I was worried because I thought maybe Contrim Non and everybody else was going to show up, and all of a sudden there was going to be a legitimate fight. The red buff could be contested here. Lucky Bao's still around as well. That means Odd Orange could get kicked in his team. There he is.
Does not, or actually does get the red buff. Does want to go and actually doesn't get the red buff, and there's going to be a lot of damage there onto Odd Orange.
Oh.
Lucky Bao gets chased over the wall by Chippy's. Chippy's a little bit out of lonesome. Chaos Storm came out from Soxo. Just a little bit of damage, and we're right on a knife's edge. Yes, we've had 11 kills. That's a lot here in this early game, but every time these fights go on, it feels like it's going to go that much further. It feels like it's right on the edge of just a blowout, but every time they pull back right at the nick of time.
The problem is one of the hardest parts about this composition to execute is the Lee Sin inside of the team fight. You'll see right here, this is the aggression that comes onto Odd Orange. I like the TP attempt, and they almost find Orange. Or also, the fact that Odd Orange steps in and dooms Wolfie with this. Wolfie getting caught out by the likes of this ultimate coming through from the Bard, and then the Q catching both of them.
Yeah,
don't have the damage to burst through the volley there, but they do have the damage to bring down Wolfie. This ultimate from, of course, Evan RL is humongous to turn the fight back in its favor. Chippy's here well before the Lee Sin is, and all of a sudden 3 members down from the side of Coog means that they can't really compete. They have 2 melee champions. I don't know how in the world they snuck this dragon, because Maryville, they push up bot lane. They're like, oh yeah, we'll push up bot lane in order to walk in. Yeah, I mean,
Look how much
but
damage
like,
he does.
I'm surprised Maryville didn't just step into the pit though. Like, why not just walk in? So instead, Teeny just runs out, is able to get away reasonably well. The Infernal breaks down some of the walls, and then all of a sudden reinforcements come. They get kind of baited into this. A good kick from Lucky Bao does put Odd Orange into a more precarious situation right there, but he's a tanky barrier. There's not really much threat, and all of a sudden Teeny walks too far forward trying to get the stun and gets punished by the likes of the Syndra. That's all that there is for this fight.
I have to say, Lucky Bao is just like the stranger in the night for me in this game. He's been so strong in these performances, and especially on this Lee Sin. This early game has been impeccable, but there's been so many times where he's just not able to get involved, not able to do exactly what he wants to do on this Lee Sin, and that's where it comes down to the execution we talked so much about in the draft.
It's a difficulty. Like we said, some of the harder parts of this composition to try to execute on are specifically in this Lee Sin trying to generate something in these team fights. And yes, the laning phase went really well. You've got some good gold on your Lee Sin. That's a really great way to start things off. In these team fights, you have to pick the right kick angle, and you have to do it with 5 members. It's right here. Maryville, they're pushing their gold advantage into this river. They know they can win a fight.
They don't have Wolfie. Wolfie's not here yet, and Odd Orange just got himself out. Stormbringer comes in, saves, but no, he's going to go down. The Rift Herald also going over to Teeny. Teeny dies. This is a 4v3 in favor of Maryville. Chippy's almost has Megadar going for Noodles, doesn't get it. The gravity field, the power unleashed, not enough. Wolfie's gonna get it over the wall though. No, the juice from Noodles. Noodles breaking the literal ankles of Maryville University here as they try their darndest to get more, but they come up with nothing.
Massive trade, not only in the kill and also picking up the Rift Herald. That's a really nice play. If somehow they can defend the mid tower as well, all of a sudden Maryville have finally overstepped, and a Clay has come through now. Shady's here for the polymorph. Lucky Bao's overstepped. They're losing mid tower.
That's going to be a flash out from Lucky Bao as well. As you said, that mid lane tier 1 tower going down. More gold over to Maryville's pockets. 4,000, about 4.5k in the lead after all of that.
I was really, really hoping that there was going to be a defense there from Coog, because this play was so good. They start off with the pick into an individual target. That's where Caitlyn shines the most, is being able to play specifically into the Volley Bear. Evan RL can't step up too far as Soxo's there, and they put a bunch of damage into everybody else. They do trade for Teeny. That's a worthwhile trade, because that's like a 3-kill shutdown onto the Volley Bear, or as opposed to like what is effectively the Udyr shutdown. Noodles here, though. Man, this guy has won our hearts and our minds being an amazing player. Look at that sidestep. Look at that sidestep. And then they heal coming out at the end to get away. Very nicely played. Lucky Bao also disengages Chippy's out, so he can't jump in on a fight. Well played from Coog Esports. The one problem, you end up losing Lucky Bao's flash off the back of that next play around the tower, and they lose mid tower, which is still in Maryville's favor, but at least Coog is still fighting strong.
Fighting strong indeed. Lucky Bao, the main as proponent of their early advantages that they've found, and now just needs to continue to use that advantage if he can. Teeny, how did you come up with your summoner name? Where does it come from? I love tea. Thank you, Tina. Thank you.
This reminds me when I saw the same thing for Clam yesterday for Purdue. Clam's name was named after like the allergy. He's allergic to clams and shellfish, and that's his name.
Perfect League of Legends name.
The same thing. It's just I like tea, so it seems Teeny. I love it. That's fantastic. These notes, man, every single time they catch me off guard.
They're so good. All right, so we have the setup in mid lane. Maryville, we're looking for a pick before this dragon spawns. Dragon's already spawned. It is the Infernal Soul yet again. We'll see if this mid lane pressure from the Rift Herald does anything. Big stun from Wolfie, but it doesn't get followed up on. The Rift Herald's already down, though. But here comes the Meganar from Chippies. Doesn't find the engage. That is a nice mystical journey there by Contramnon. They have found the engage, though. That's the Stormbringer. The wombo combo is just unbelievable, Rebel. Hey, Wolfie finds the Scatter of the Week into the Stormbringer, into the damage done on the Coog. Now Coog are down 2 members. They're jungle, one of them, with the dragon on the board.
I told you a number of times why it is that Wolfie is allowed to play the Cinder pick. Right there, 2 separate stuns that come out from the Syndra that generate pressure for the rest of the team. It's not the first game he's done it. It's not the second game he's done it. There's been so many performances on this Cinder pick that have allowed this champion to come through. And right there, Maryville, they're fishing around mid lane. It was a Cougar. They tried to walk into this river area and just take control. But unfortunately, because of the range of engage between Chippies and Odd Orange and Wolfie, you just can't ever make that happen. And the one disengage they might have had from the likes of Volibear, from the likes of Gnar, was Lee Sin, who got caught up in that engagement to start with. That's another fight win and another dragon going to the side of Maryville. You'll see exactly this happen. And it started, there's the first stun, which a great portal came out, but then all of a sudden in the river are standing Lucky Bow and Teeny, who end up getting caught out by the Syndra, who just gets to walk directly at them. They walked at Dragon, probably should have gone out and around, cleared that ward, and the stun's going to come through and set up this massive engage.
So also, I feel like this is really good play from Maryville to keep the knowledge of what's been used, right? They just saw Contramnon save Noodles with the mystical journey through the wall. They have no escape, though. Even though Contramnon is there, there's nothing he can do to stop that, and they take that path right in front of Maryville, just baiting them to go in, and then they do. You got what you asked for when you're walking around the corner like that. So very strong, at least heads-up play from Maryville here is the name of the game right now with this 5,000 gold lead.
Wolfie, nice. What do you think makes your team so good? I love this, and I want to actually. Okay, there's gonna be.
We got Shady. All right, Shady's in some trouble here. He's gonna flash away.
He's in some major
Ace
trouble
in the hole.
Oh, he's
no,
alive.
It's not gonna get it. He's gonna survive, as that's gonna be a nice little attempt by Coog, but it's not gonna get much. But yes, it's a Wolfie diff, says Chippies.
Always is. If it's not a Teach diff, it's a Wolfie diff. I want to bring this back to the point that I know Zood had talked about, and that was the answer to the question, which is grit and determination. And I know people have talked about, I know they talked about some of the hardships they've overcome since the beginning of the split and not having the performances that they have wanted. Being able to come out in this one and have these clean of games against Coog Esports, a team that looks really nice. And Wolfie also, he soaks a lot of criticism from people who don't consider him to be the absolute top level pinnacle of anybody in the pressure, but he is an amazing player, and he is 100% what makes this team tick in the long run. So big props to him, being able to take a lot of that criticism, being kind of like this rock that everything at Maryville is built on, shows from the appreciation that Chippies just gave him. That's a big praise from somebody coming out of the professional league at OCE, saying that it's Wolfie that makes this team go. Yeah,
and just finding that is the sticking point here for Maryville. They have such. I'll say it again for the 1,000th time. It's a 10-man roster. They're all part of the team. They all are influential in how this program finds success, and they do so every which way they can. And Wolfie is not any different. Poor Noodles having some reconnection issues. That is, I believe, a couple times now. But nothing, no pause, nothing crazy. They're not going to stop it. He comes right back. It's fine. But again, just looking at Maryville as a stacked roster, they've got so many strengths coming into this game. They've got leads on Odd Orange. They've got leads for Wolfie. They've even got a lead for Evan RL, who right now I feel like is the quiet menace on this team, because he has been getting this gold everywhere. The towers, the plates, the damage is coming through for this Jinx, and that's what's so scary. About to crest that 3-item mark. Wolfie might be in some trouble though.
Right. No, it's not going to be the case. Wasn't spotted out even. It's just going to be the ult to come through.
Almost just kills Contramnon.
Well, you're going to force that out.
That was so close. Evan's on point. Odd Orange goes, oh no, they have found this completely here. Contramnon is there. You think you got one of them? You got all 5 of them, because they're all here right in your face. Teeny's going to get dragged out here eventually. Saxo is not going to go down. Teeny neither. Wow. They're trying to find Lucky Bow now. And Maryville are being a little bit desperate here to take the fight. The kick comes through. The stun from Wolfie. Look how much damage Wolfie's doing right now. And that's something we talked about in the draft that was so worrisome. They're giving this confidence pick, this comfort pick that he performed so well on last game to this champ. That was so close. Second time, ace in the hole is going to be so close, but no cigar.
That's tough too. That's also one of your main damage soaks. So like they can't walk directly at Baron. There's also percentage health on that Gnar. And I gotta be honest, Coog played that super well for the fact that they started that fight without one of their one of their players right there. The fact that they walked out every other member without their Bard, without the locket or anything like that, that's really impressive. Very nicely played. I gotta praise Lucky Bao quite a bit for the disengage right there. But Maryville continue to find these picks in the side lanes, continue to find these wins even in these small circumstances, and use this gold advantage to their favor. They don't ever sit and wait and dwell on what they've achieved so far, waiting for these 5-on-5 fights, giving a chance for the other team to step in. Instead, they're the ones always making constant moves. This is a problem, though. Chippy's underneath this tower. 5 members of Coog over here.
They aren't really positioned for it, though. They do have Contran on here. Tempered Fate's going to miss. They have a couple members over the wall here, but now Maryville have started to swoop in the backside of the Dragon Pit. And I feel like I just want to shout out that Coog have been so great at knowing where they want to aggress, right? I feel like their movements have been pretty good. It's the execution and the fights that have been a little bit different for them, but they're still willing to go for these plays. They're still willing to find these avenues here, and Chippy's is the one that they try to go for, but Chippy's is Mega Gnar now, uses the Mega Gnar ulti into the wall. The Mega Death Rocket's going to miss, but you've still got Chaos Storm doing work in the pit. Wolfie goes down to Soxo, gets the power unleashed out, but goes down. Now you have the trade where Shady gets the kill onto Teeny, and the fight's going to continue. Evan RL is just popping shots over the wall, and that's going to be Chippy's getting the kill. Wild Growth comes down to save the day. Evan RL is starting to get excited, and we're going to see it continue here. Let's see him take down Soxo. Is he going to get it? Flash forward gets the kill. Killing spree for Evan RL.
Shady left out of the Blast Cone party. Unfortunately, that's going to be the case, but it was another attempted fight here from Coog Esports where they almost walk away with something good. Soxo is starting to get on some of the damage necessary to start to carry this game, but it's still really late. That's 3rd dragon taken. I don't know if Soxo and Noodles are going to get to the point where their damage is enough to purely win team fights. They need big kicks. They need big picks, and a Bard ultimate in a fight could be huge for being able to generate some kind of disadvantage, numbers advantage. That's what Coog's got to play for, because Maryville, they're now sitting on like a 7,000 gold lead. They're going to have Baron buff right now. A best case scenario, they might get here fast enough with Udyr to maybe contest the play afterwards, but I doubt they're going to be able to contest the actual Baron itself, as Teamy can't actually get into the pit at all.
I've got to ask on like why the focus was on Chippy's there. He's almost in Mega Gnar. They go all in with Teeny and Lucky Bao, and that's been the story so far, is they're always trying to get Chippy's. And for me, that's not the focus. You've got to get Wolfie. You've got to get Evan RL. This Lee Sin has access to those members, but just can't find it or chooses not to. And that is the difference maker, I feel, in these fights. Coog, they have good ideas. They have good advances, but they aren't finding the targets that they have to find.
If I have to be honest, I think part of it was accessibility in one sense, and the other part of it is that's a really important member to take out of the fight when it comes to like who he is. So first off, he's on his lonesome on the right side of this fight, so Lucky Bao and Teamy could be looking for that. They try to make a pick onto Chippy's because he was in Mini Gnar, and they just have to walk away. This ultimate just stalls them here. So now you got 3 members versus like the 3 members here, because of course Shady is helping out Chippy's, and so the range advantage is there. That's what Soxo is able to actually take advantage of. And then Chippy's is just kind of 2v1ing with the Lulu on the opposite side of the fight. So this whole time, it's like all this engage that exists from the side of Coog is never able to access the fight, because it's just 100% Chippy's in their face, stalling them out entirely. Soxo doesn't have quite the damage without the ultimate to be able to pop through everybody. Evan was relatively safe up until this point in the fight, and all of a sudden you lose too many members, lose too much health bar, and Maryville walks away with a fight win, a dragon, now Baron, and they're sieging up on these last couple of outer or inner towers here.
As the split lane focus comes in for Maryville, Chippy's able to get so much damage on this bot tier 2. They are on soul point now as well, with those 2 infernal souls under their belt. Feel good for a little bit of damage boost, but also it's the pressure around the map that it means so much for, and being able to play with that as Maryville is so important. Power Unleashed. Soxo not going to go down, does get the Chaos Storm out. The Mega Death Rocket follows. Auto Orange bulls into the fight with the Stormbringer, but they can't find the advantage there. There's the long range damage coming from Evan RL, but after all that fight, Coog put up a good defense, but they're losing their bottom towers. They're losing their mid now as well with the Baron buff minions, and they have to find a response here. They're going to lose 2 inhibs to their base.
They probably honestly just lose. The range advantage you've got with this Jinx right now, with these rockets and being able to put pressure on, and especially with Syndra, with the exact same reason, where if you find an E and you get a stun, you can approach for free and throw some extra damage onto members. All of a sudden, a second wave comes in, gets nothing with that ultimate from Bard, man. Like, you got to hit all of the cannons if you're trying to stall this out, but that was nowhere near capable of stopping that. Chippies keeps poking away. He actually did pull off the inhibitor already, and just continues to crash waves in. Slowly, double inhibitor's going to go down. I don't think there's much Coog could have done about that in the first place. They're just trying not to lose immediately here, as multiple waves crashing in mid and in bot. Finally, Maryville pulls off after an onslaught in that base, leads to a 10,000 gold lead.
And they're going to reset here, get ready for the dragon that's spawning in about a minute and a half. They can get all the vision control they want, but it is very heavy to come back from this deficit for Coog, as we see those gold differentials there. Top lane even. The Lee Sin that we were praising for the early game, that we were finding all those things that looked so good for Coog. The target selection wasn't there, and now the lead isn't there, as they have found themselves in that about 9,000 golden difference. And they don't have any real tools that are coming online for them, right? You're always looking towards this Victor now and the Caitlyn to bring up the damage. You don't have that early game Lee Sin anymore. It's not being the presence that you thought it was going to be, and you've got to find the damage elsewhere, and that does come from these two carries, but they're still struggling to get through items. You've got 2.5 here now for Noodles, which feels good, but you've got 3.5 there on the other side for Evan RL, and even the mid lane, you've got that 2.5 item spike for the Victor, but you're really looking for a little bit more there.
My favorite part about looking at these builds right now, only because we have a down second, is the fact that third item for Chippies is Redemption, which is
It was GA last time, it's Redemption this time.
It's Redemption this time, yeah. It's a little bit wacky, at least. I was actually a little bit appalled to find out that it's like 10% maximum health true damage that you do with like a Redemption, which just seems obscene to me to be able to do that with. Again, this entire fight from the side of Coog, though, it's contingent on a kick coming through.
Stormbringer comes in, Auto Orange getting very low. He's CC'd, he flashes away, though, and now the response. Evan RL is coming in with tons of damage. He gets brought down, though. Is he going to go down? No, he's too good at the spacing, but they do get him. Noodles with the outplays, a double kill for the Caitlyn, and Noodles, again, it's all day Noodles. Can he take him down? Noodles getting really low. Noodles going to go down to Chippies, who is now on a rampage. You got 3 members strong. Chippies, full health, double super minions. This could just be it.
It's almost certainly going to be it right here and right now. He needs to get more than just T to get him out of this situation, because unfortunately, I think this is going to be it. This is Maryville in another 30 minutes to show a slow burn into a win here. Yeah, the T's trying to go to the Shady, but I don't think it's going to work. They're going to focus on him for a second, maybe buy time for a few more members to come out. This might not be the end right this second, but members are still coming out.
The T is not enough, Rebel. Maryville University, the Kings of the North, book their ticket to the round of 8.
Incredible stuff. It's just control across the map 100% of the time coming out from Maryville. That just never feels like they give up pressure in the game, ever. Even in that last fight, Evan got brought down. How much damage did Evan do to all 5 members of that team? The Rockets were insane. They were hitting everybody so hard. And at the end, it was like, oh, maybe there's some competition. Maybe they can come back. Yo, they have 4 whole members still up. They have 3 full members in terms of full health. And of course, the entire time, Wolfie had been completely untouched on the Syndra. So, like I said, it's the slow burn. It's not the fastest, most exciting wins that we've seen, but it is certainly the most dominant wins that we've seen today, or at least over the course of some of the round of 16 when it comes to how much control was exerted over their opposition. Really big fans of what Maryville did. Coog had a couple of really big bright spots over the course of those 2 games, but just were never able to put the pieces together.
And that's where we're going to talk about Maryville, obviously, right? But I think that Coog do deserve a very special shout out here. They had ideas. They had ways to attack Maryville in the early game. That's what we set out. That was so important. They were able to execute on those. It was just that middle period that didn't go their way. And to go up against the favorites of the tournament, right, and put up a show like this, yes, you didn't get a win, but you've got to be proud that you were able to make it to the round of 16. You were able to make it this far and show up in this kinds of series in some of these moments for these games. So a huge shout out to Coog Esports. You got to give it to the boys at Maryville University. Absolutely dominant, continuing their rise to the top. And to hear about that rise, we have an interview with Chippies lined up.
Hello, everyone, and Chippies, great to have you with us here for this game. Congrats on the win. And I just want to start off. I know that I talked to you earlier in the amateur split when you guys were in Proving Grounds about kind of what went into the decision of coming over to Maryville. I know a huge part of that for you was being able to win collegiate and make it to where you're competing internationally once again. What's it like to take that first step and making top 8 and continuing Maryville's streak of making top 8 every single year they were a varsity program?
It feels pretty good, but we still have a long way to go. Sorry, my teammates are in the background talking, but I'd say it's a good first step for sure.
Yeah, well, hey, you guys have a lot to be excited about, yeah, right, after that win. I do actually want to dive in. We have a clip of you, that NAR that you played both games, a really big part of the victories. I know that this is a champion that you feel very comfortable on, both games being blind picked. What goes into this pick for you, and what do you think sets your NAR apart from the others?
I don't think it's really like NAR specifically. I just picked what I think's the best for like our opponents, and these guys play a lot of tanks. I think both games I had like 3 tanks, maybe 2. So now it's just really good at shredding front line, playing front to back. So I just try to pick what's best for our opponent each week.
Yeah, in this fight, walk us through this Mega R2 that you're able to hit once you go through the portal. What were the comms like with your team?
I was sort of trying to force the fight quickly before my NAR went back to small. So I sort of like called to hurry up and engage so that I could follow up, and then on orange and the boys smurfed it.
That's a gorgeous engage. During the hour-long break we had between series, we were able to air the Maryville behind-the-scenes video where you had, a number of interviews there. And during one of your interviews, you talked about your recent performance in Upsurge, losing to one of the teams that you thought you guys were better than. What kind of changes have you made as a player? What kind of changes has Maryville made as a team to kind of level up as CLOL continues, into the top 16, now the top 8?
I'd say not making Proving Grounds. It was like pretty massive for our team, like a big blow. But we had so many problems that everyone was trying to fix individually. So every day someone would come in with a different approach. But we finally had like a few like big sits and talks. I'd say we finally like tackling our problems the same way. I'd say we're finally on the same page. So I'd say that's the main like learning from Upsurge and these amateur tourneys.
Yeah, and going into this tournament, we also had a questionnaire. We were airing some of the best answers from the players. We aired one of yours live on broadcast, and the question was, what sets Maryville apart from the other teams? And your answer was very simple. It was one word, and it was Wolfie, your teammate in the mid lane. Kind of tell us about what his leadership brings to your squad and why he's so important to your success.
So Wolfie's very important because even though he gets solo killed every game by Nivea 1 tricks, he still has really insane comms. And no matter what, he'll always pop off late game. So he's sort of like the insurance. If we don't lose in 20 minutes, like the Wolfie gap will start showing.
Yeah, always funny to hear about, praising teammates. Final question, at least from me. Over on the B stream right now, Upsurge Esports, we are going to maybe see a game 3. We're seeing Arizona versus the Columbia College. And what are your thoughts on that matchup? Obviously, you play the winner of that series in a few weeks from now. What kind of changes, what kind of preparation are you guys, do you hope for a certain team to win? What are your thoughts going into that game?
I don't know who those guys are, so I only prepare for like who we're versing each week. So I haven't looked at them yet because I wanted to focus on the team we just versed.
I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to catch up with your notes in the next 3 weeks as you prep for your round of 8 matchup. And Chippies, before we let you go, we just want to give you the floor. Any thank yous, any shout outs that you'd like to give before we let you go?
Thanks to my teammates for carrying me game 2. That was pretty nice. And thanks for all my family and friends who watch a lot of my games, even though there's so many of them. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, well, hey, Chippy's glad that you had the same success that a lot of your Oz brethren had as well on the international stage today, and hopefully you're able to continue that success with Maryville as we go into the round of 8. We'll see you here in a few weeks as we continue this tournament in 3 weeks. So best of luck in your prep, and excited to see what you guys have prep for us in the round of 8.
Awesome, thank you.
Always great to sit down with the all-star top laner, coming over from the Ost region as well. Not a lot of people talked about that import, but Chippy's obviously brings a major voice and has had a major impact on that team, Maryville, as they continue their success, continue their dominant streak of never missing a round of 8 since they became a varsity program. No one else in the country can say that. No one else in the country has been as successful in Collegiate League of Legends as Maryville, and honestly, it's not close as they cruise to a victory, but we have to see how they were able to get into that. So now that we have the first replay, I want to welcome back in OP TSM fan, who's going to be talking us through this one where Maryville got off to a pretty quick start by turning this bot dive around in their favor.
Yeah, we kind of saw a little bit of the same stuff from the side of Coog Esports. This TP right here was kind of a head scratcher right here. Obviously, they don't know that the odd orange is right there. Really, really nice and maybe unfortunate binding, depending on what side you're on, that the odd orange gives to Whoopi right there.
Oh.
But the way that we saw from game 1 and now even here in this bot lane dive is the instant response. Here comes Chippies with another mega to keep these guys in here, and they just turn the play on their head. They have such a great way of reacting to these kind of things. Then obviously they kind of get away with a little thievery right there for Coog Esports, but that was the turning point, I think, where you kind of saw Coog Esports full send it, and they returned to sender for Maryville.
Yeah, and it's just Maryville showing once again that they are one of the most coordinated teams that we have in this whole tournament. We saw Chippies just instantly pulling the trigger on a lot of teleports, Wolfie doing the same. They're just so crisp and decisive with their mid-game and late-game decision-making, with whether or not they want to take a fight, whether or not they want to back up. And that's just a perfect example. The whole team is there to back them up. They know what fights they want to take, and a lot of college teams are not the same.
Yeah, we already saw that quick replay where Wolfie was able to set up the pins for Chippies to knock him down on the Mega Arm. We have another replay around not the third dragon, but the fourth dragon fight that we had in this game, Dylan. And this is really where Maryville, they had the lead for the entire game. The Cougars were doing their best to, stick around, keep things close, but this is where Maryville was able to finally take the cake.
Yeah, I mean, like, Chippies is just so threatening on the side here. He's mostly full on his Mega Bar, fills it up here by poking at the Lee Sin and the Udyr, and it's just so hard to actually find an angle if you're Coog Esports. What are you going to do? You have Chippies threatening you from the right, you have Wolfie now moving up to threaten you, and sure, he gets chunked and killed, but he gets the ultimate off, chunks the Victor. And it's just Maryville knowing how to play out these little skirmishes. Things looked okay for Coog Esports, but Chippies is just such a menace. Like, he said that his team carried him in that game too, but honestly, he just had such a presence in these team fights. And honestly, OP, you were calling it out a little bit, while we were watching the game ourselves. This Lee Sin was not a super impactful pick. There were not a lot of really great kicks that were found, no real advantages in the side lane or anything that was generated from it. I was not a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of comfort, especially that we saw for Lucky Bao in both the Sejuani and the Lee Sin top in this series. I was really trying to find if there were moments he could have used that kick, but, kind of just fell a little bit flat. I really do want to commend Coog Esports, though, for, we were talking about it, even though they were down 7K, it really just felt like they had like the nameplates turned off. They were just taking everything as if it was even every time, which is kind of a nice thing to see. But then you just go back to the tacticians from the north right there in Maryville, and they're really crisp, clean gameplay, not really even showing that much either here in this Sweet 16 matchup versus Coog Esports, which I think bodes well for them for all the question marks that maybe we had previously for them. Really nice showing for them, but hats off to Coog Esports for a really nice showing.
I know that we have one more replay of the game-ending fight. Dylan, just kind of want to throw this to you and, kind of walk through how Maryville was able to finally wrap things up here, but also what you expect from them going into the round of 8 against their opponent, which is still to be known.
Yeah, this is just Maryville putting the nail in the coffin, dotting their I's, crossing their T's. It feels like, at this point, they just had such a massive gold lead. They could play these fights not perfectly. I mean, we see the Out Orange just getting chunked out there. and it doesn't even matter. I mean, look at how fed Evan RL is. Beautiful binding. It just does not matter.
Oh.
Like, it's such a beautiful team fighting from Maryville. They have each other's back, which I think is one thing that going into this round of 8 is going to be very important, because they're either playing against Arizona State University or Columbia College. It looks like it's going to be going to a Game 3 on the second stream. We will get you guys updates as the desk continues, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like if it's Columbia College, I'm a little bit more favored towards Columbia College than I would be if it was Arizona State, but I think Maryville has at least like a 70 or 80% chance of beating either of those teams and moving on to the top 4. They just seem so solid. I think this top 16 performance really solidified for me that Maryville has moved past a lot of their weaknesses, and they've, shored up some of their gameplay mistakes, and they're ready to actually just win another championship.
Yeah, and I want to reference the little spoof that we saw before this series even started on the whiteboard. Zoo saying, "Are you doing everything that you can to help us win a natty?" And they showed right here that they had to take this. You heard it from Chippies saying, "Hey, we're just taking it one game at a time." And talking about the prep master again in Zoo, it's got 3 weeks now for either one of these guys, and they're going to be most likely going to a Game 3, as you say. So the more tape and the more film that you can give the side of Maryville, I don't know if it matters who comes out from this, because that is, again, the team that is the most prepared and the most clinical when it comes to Maryville right here.
And that is how Maryville was able to take the series clean 2-0 as they move on to the round of 8, as I am told that we actually have a little bit of a shout out coming in here from our observers. We've been working so hard behind the scenes, and hey, throwing everything that we've seen up on the screen so far, including this. Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day from the observers, as we will have a few Mother's Day shout-outs coming through from the entire staff that we have in celebration. Don't want to tease too much of that quite yet, as we still have a little bit of housekeeping to do. Have to take one more look at the bracket to see where things panned out. If you guys missed the early games of the day, please take a look. Go back, watch the VODs. You can catch those on the official LOL Esports VODs channel, as well as just going back in time here on stream. As we mentioned earlier today, we did see Harrisburg take the 2-0 against George Mason University on this stream. We also saw Bethany Esports take down UWO, breaking that streak of 2 consecutive finals appearances. They don't make it to the round of 8, as Bethany going to be going there as first year as a very significant varsity program, taking so many steps to really grow things there, going up against the University of Toronto, a club team, as they're going to try and be the Canadian killers and take down one more Canadian team. We just saw Maryville move on here. I know that score on the bottom there at twitch.tv/Upsurge Esports, it says 1-0. I haven't gotten word that it's 1-1 quite yet, but ASU, they are up. They did take the Baron, and they're just now ending is what I'm getting told. So ASU, it's 1-1. We'll be sending it over to that stream over there, but we have a couple more shout outs to take care of. As you guys can tell, it's Mother's Day, right? And we want to thank all the moms that have brought us into this world, but also a special shout out as Dylan. He knows that he's going to be shouting out his mom here real quick. We actually have a special graphic, one of my favorite moments from our own collegiate season as well, showing up on screen. What better support than having your mom ratio someone on Twitter who's giving you some flame?
I did not know this was happening.
I know you didn't. Yeah, what better support from mom, who has been in the chat, his whole family, and also Dylan. I know we have a lot of graduating seniors. If you guys didn't know, on broadcast, I was a head coach at Miami, Ohio University. Dylan was our senior jungler, has been a team leader for 2 years. He is not going to be playing with us, and I'm really sad about that, because I could not have anyone better on our team and couldn't ask for anyone better on the staff as well to spend the desk with. And Dylan, we're going to miss you. You're going to make a great teacher. Really excited to see what you do student teaching-wise. I'm really glad we got to spend this time on you, as you were the desk buddy for the entirety of the stream. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my mom's been in the chat for every single stream, every single minute. I don't think she really understands what's happening during the games, but she's cheering on whatever team she likes. So, thank you so much, Mom. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and also do want to give the floor to our special guest of the day, Sean OPTSM fan Shannon, head coach at Grand Canyon University. Man, any shout outs you want to give?
Obviously, thank you so much to my mom and my family for always just supporting me and everything. And shout out to Cubby's mom as well. because without that, yeah. So Cubby's mom bringing this wonderful guy into the world, but yeah, and also just the entire collegiate space because it's a good space to have these relationships like what Cubby and Dylan were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, this wasn't the only broadcast that was going on throughout, and it takes a village to put on a show like this, and we do want to take a moment to shout out everyone who was a part of the show, both behind the scenes and on camera, across all 3 streams. We had twitch.tv/Upsurge Esports, which is still running right now. We also had twitch.tv/Unified EA that was running the previous week, because we had to get through the round of 32. Also want to give a shout out to everyone behind the scenes, our head producer, Tone, observers Makes Asian as well, Harryism on replays, Nick on graphics, Josh as well hopping on to help, and also everyone, all the admins who helped too. Garrett, Tiz has been in the chat. He helped organize the whole thing. We talked to Trinity earlier in the week too. It takes a lot to put on a show like this. We've had so much support off camera that you guys haven't seen as well. Just wanted to give a moment to shout out everyone who's been able to help, and also shout out the real stars of the day. I know that we've been putting the spotlight on all the collegiate teams, players, and programs, but it is Mother's Day. We want to take a moment to shout out all the moms as well. As our outro will be a bunch of the on-air talent and their moms as shout outs, as that is going to be it for us and the round of 16 for the League of Legends Collegiate Championships presented by State Farm. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. If you want more collegiate action, go to twitch.tv/Upsurge Esports. We will be rating them afterwards. But from me, Cubby on the desk, Dylan, OPTSM fan, happy Mother's Day. Thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck to these wonderful teams and programs who competed in the round of 32, and we will see in the round of 8 who have qualified. Thank you so much. It's been a great day, and have a great Mother's Day. Call your moms.